Simon, good to see you. So a couple of weeks break, but unfortunately still injuries to talk about. We'll start with Jed. How's he looking?
So obviously Jed landed maybe a week before the Warrington game. He'd not played for a couple of weeks, had the travel in him and whatnot. Stiffened up a little bit leading to that game, so obviously we weren't going to push him into that one. And then obviously last week, as I said, we were off. Jed stuck around and trained with reserves, which was good. Showed that willing, that want to get in there and do his bit, and he felt, and we felt it doing good to get some minutes for reserves, and unfortunately felt a bit of a pop in his foot after about 30 minutes of the game, and he was doing a decent job in the game, to be fair, getting some cobwebs off, I think. So yeah, we'll be without him for a few weeks now at least.
A few weeks?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. He's in a boot, isn't he, at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment, that's the way of things now. Everyone's super cautious straight away, so straight in the boot to protect it from obviously any further damage, but we'll know a little bit more, I think, in a couple of weeks.
What's a few weeks?
A few's 3-4 weeks. I'm not 100% sure at the moment.
Right, okay, fair enough. In terms of 3 others as well, I'll go through them individually. Jack Ashworth?
Yeah, Jack, unfortunate really. One of those off the ball ones. I think he might have caught Liggy's foot as they were crossing paths and twisted his ankle, and he ruptured some ligaments in his ankle which had needed correcting via surgery. So Jack's going to be, I'd say 8 weeks maybe. That's a decent one and a bit of a blow for us.
Yeah, it was just an obvious one. How big a blow?
Yeah, well, look, I think with all of these injuries, not just going to single out Jack, we've managed to get settled of late, and now we go back to that unsettled period again. But it is what it is. It just presents opportunities for other people. There's some young lads that have come in and done a great job this year, and over the coming weeks while these lads are absent, I'm sure more opportunities will come from.
What timescale and what's the issue with Lingy?
Actually, touch wood, nothing happens between now and the weekend. I think he's ruptured a ligament in his ankle, but not, what's the word? Maybe it's not as a big stabiliser of the ankle, so I think he's going to be okay. We've just got to be careful with him and manage him throughout the week.
We'll talk about blows. How big a relief then, if that's the case?
Yeah, relief, obviously. Blow, we've not mentioned Cam Scott yet, obviously, but yeah, each of them, I think all of them, our team in general, have found a little bit of form and a little bit of rhythm in the last few weeks. Are disappointing to lose blokes at the moment, but as I say, that's the nature of the beast. Is what it is.
What is the update with Cam?
Cam's got a significant hamstring tear. So yeah, they are, I won't say a piece of string. We've got the definitive. It's going to be at the long end of the scale in terms of recovery, which, depending on how that goes. Unfortunately, as we're all aware now, Cam's moving on at the end of the year. Could be a bit of a shame of a way for him to have finished his whole FC career, unfortunately. But we'll get around him and he'll do his rehab, and if there's a chance of playing, it'd be great to have him back toward the end of the year there. But with 3 months we've got left, I think he'll be pushing it.
So the expectation at the moment is that he has played his last game for the club?
Potentially, yeah.
Right. Again, as you said, a massive blow. We wish him well with that. Anyone back for this? Danny looking with his ribs?
Danny, he's okay. He's trained. And again, mid-season, the niggles start piling up now, so it's not only the ribs, there's little bits and bobs with Danny. But he's tough. He's certainly in the picture to play this week. But again, at the moment, with people carrying niggles and obviously losing a few, we're going to try and leave it as long as we can before we absolutely commit to our team at the moment. Yeah,
is it battling that need for numbers, but also then thinking longer term, the knock-on effect?
Yeah, it's tough in general. I mean, I probably said it, I'm sure you've heard it from other rugby league coaches across Super League and Championship as well, where the depth of players, there's just not that many available. With the reserves comp now, people appear to be taking it a little bit more seriously, playing their players within that and keeping them available for that. Means that it's not like we can just go out and go, okay, we'll just get an experienced Super League player to come and help prop us up at this moment. It does mean we will be using some young lads who have been training really hard and going well in the reserves and having some good performances for us. So as much as it's a dark cloud, if you like, with the injuries, that we have to view that as a silver lining, and it will be tough for those young kids in the coming weeks, but it's all part of the learning curve. A steep one at times.
Yeah. How close is Mitch?
Mitch, he's running out there today with us. It's been a long, drawn-out process for him. I think he's sick to death of doing the rehab runs. I've been there myself. It gets very monotonous. I can't give you a clear update. I know he's not. We're not expecting him back in the coming weeks.
Okay. Jayden Okunbor recalled from Bradford. Will he be involved this weekend?
Yeah, he come back from Bradford last week. He won't be involved with us this week. Potentially could go back to Bradford this week. We'll see.
Okay. What's the decision-making process with that? What are you going through with him at the moment?
Decision-making around him going back to Bradford?
Yeah.
For him, it's game time and sorting out what the future looks like. Listen, it won't be the first time I said it. We probably haven't got what we needed out of the deal thus far. I don't think Jayden has either. That's the reason he went on loan, to get his games in and I suppose get happy, because no one wants to be sat on the sideline and not featuring. So again, as far as the longer term future, you probably need to speak to Rich or Adam around that one. But Ock's been great though, like his attitude and behaviour considering the circumstances, he's been really good.
That was going to be my next question, how he's handled it, because players can go on and...
Yeah, really good. He's been absolutely fine. His behaviour, contributions and that, he's been fine.
How's Tiaki Chan come back from the international?
Good, come back with spring in his step. Full of energy as it normally is. So yeah, he comes straight back into contention as well.
Well, Gardner impressed, didn't he, against Warrington? How big an opportunity for him to back it up?
Yeah, and obviously the injuries might open up a little purple patch for Gards in terms of his own development. I thought watching that game at the time, and obviously watching it back on a couple of times as well, I thought Will grew into it, that it wasn't by design for him to be out there for such a length of time, but obviously the things that happen in the game, they go that way, and he was able to dig in, and I thought the longer he were out there, he probably got a bit more comfortable with it. It's that second wind thing, I mentioned it before, especially when you're in the middle, it's all pretty thick and fast in there, and I think sometimes you're searching for it, and when you've got experienced guys on the bench, sometimes those younger lads, they don't get exposed to that feeling of, I'm not sure if I can do any more here, and then they come out the other side of it. So I think that was good for him, knowing what he's capable of in terms of the minutes side of things. But it just, like all those young lads, they're never perfect. They've got some good bits in the game, and he just needs to keep working hard. And as I said, there will be some opportunities for him coming up in the weeks ahead. So he'll have another chance to show us what he's got.
Appreciate this might be a question for elsewhere, but you're the person speaking to us. Cade Cust reportedly signed for next season. Can you confirm?
Yeah, I've read that this morning myself. You need to speak to Rich. I know, obviously, we're actively looking to add to our squad, and everyone that's available, whether we're actually speaking to them or not, will be linked with us. It's a bit of a game. Agents, I'm not saying it could be on the money. I honestly don't know. But when club like Hull are actively searching for improvement, we're an easy one to bounce off, I think, as well. Whether I'm right in this instance or not, I don't know. But yes, as far as I'm aware, nothing's happened with Cade Cust, but we'll see what happens.
What would a player like Cade bring you then if it was him?
Well, from my understanding of Cade, he's not a bad age, is he? He's 24, 25. 25, can play a couple of positions. The versatility always helps in this game. With the bands, the concussions and all that, it can help you. But yeah, I suppose time will tell.
As you said, a player who can play hooker, it's an area you've been looking to build on, and Denive Balmforth signing that extension as well. Why was that the right deal for you, the club, and him, the player, at this moment?
Again, I'm not involved in the conversations around the dealings,
but as far as keeping
contract lengths and stuff. Listen, Denive's got great potential, and while it's your job, not fans' jobs, but fans' role, to build these players up and enjoy them and celebrate all the successes, I absolutely undoubtedly agree. There's a lot of talent in Denive, and I sound like Mr. Negative when I come up here, but it's our job as a staff to keep him on the ground while everyone else is trying to lift him up, because he has got potential, but potential and realising potential, there's a lot of work to do in between, and he's on with that. He knows the areas we try to work on, and he knows what the top hookers look like in terms of their numbers, if you like, what their performances and output look like. And he's a way off getting that. And, the top end hookers now, your Danny Walkers and stuff, their involvements are really high, their moments are close together, and they're playing big minutes in a game, and it's just something Denive's going to have to develop over time. But Yeah, I think a 12-month contract. I think that suits Denive and his aspirations. He wants to challenge himself to earn a longer deal with the club and play a bigger role. And for us, it's another short-term look and see how committed he is to making the improvements we expect and hope he can make. So we can see that potential. But again, try to get the balance right, because I know I sound negative when I'm talking about Denive. He's a good player. He's shown some qualities. He's done some match winning or match changing moments, I suppose, in over the last month when he's been involved. But yeah, as much as everyone else can celebrate those highlights, I want to get more of them. So we're just going to try to keep working hard with him and keeping him on the ground so he don't get too carried away with himself.
You've touched on what my follow-up was going to be about that self-recognition as well, because some people are talking about the England football squad at the moment, some of the post-match interviews where fans are feeling that they aren't truly being honest with themselves and with the fans with how they're responding to that. With Denive, seemingly from what you said there, he's very much aware of that gap, that he needs to close. I think
in this job for everyone, my approach anyway, is try and be as honest and as clear as we can be, and then everyone knows where they stand. Nothing can sort of get thrown back at you at a later date. You didn't tell me this. As I said, Denive is clear on what we want him to improve on. So the challenge is now to go and make them improvements, because as I've explained to him this morning, actually, we had a chat about a lot of things, not just rugby. I'm not trying to lecture the young fella, but it's a job. You get paid for this, but it's not a job. It's a lifestyle. It's not you don't clock in, clock out. How you behave when you're not here. Whether it's going out with your friends, you still have to behave in a certain manner because you're representing Hull, whether you're wearing the jersey or not. Not that he's done anything untoward, by the way, and obviously what you eat, how you recover, how you look after yourself, they all play a part in what's actually produced on the weekend, and that's being a professional, which no one walks into any job and the professional person straight away. It takes a bit of time, and it takes some role models as well to help them, and hopefully we're making some inroads on some of that. To create them good professionals in our group, particularly of our young blokes, because if we get that right with them and our older boys that we're bringing in and the ones that are staying, obviously, they're already showing those traits, otherwise they wouldn't have made it this far, I suppose, in the game. We can start turning our culture, the buzzword of culture, but how we do business really, and how serious we are about our jobs and respectful of where the money comes from and who puts the money in as well.
Speaking of honest conversations and discussions, there's been a lot of that seemingly coming off the back of last weekend's international game. What did you make of it?
I watched it. I tried to watch it. Felt a little bit sick. The camera angle changing every 2 seconds, and a bit disappointing. I'm not sure. I think Toulouse, obviously there's a rugby league fan base there. They have a team there. I've been over there with Halifax and had pretty decent crowds. Marketing, advertisement. Was Toulouse the right place? Is Perpignan got more rugby league around it? I honestly don't know them answers, but yeah, it could have been better, couldn't it? I mean, obviously, England are restricted on what they can select. They've got some marquee players that are overseas, who are not going to come back for mid-season. It's just not feasible. Then in amongst it, obviously, they rested some more senior blokes who you'd think will feature, obviously, at the end of the year. So, although, good opportunities for them younger lads. Obviously, Sam Wood was a bit of a bolter, really, out of Cass, who's been having a great season, a nice reward for him. Michela, obviously, at KR has been great as well. So, there's some good bits in amongst it. But as a spectacle, I've read a few of the bits that you can't disagree. If we're going to do it, we want to do it properly and make it look like an event as opposed to a mid-season friendly. It had that feel to it, didn't it?
You mentioned Hull KR. Willie Peters speaking yesterday about, or the other day about, possibly coaches withdrawing the players if it's going to be something like that. Is that something you agree with? Can you see the reasoning behind that?
I understand the point, but at the same time, it's not our job to worry about the start. And it's not a great experience, I don't believe, for the players to go and play in what would be a lacking atmosphere, if you like. But it's not our job to do that. Those lads will have been as proud to play for England in France in that game as they would have been in Manchester or Leeds or whatever. It's more for the people who organise these events to make sure they get the bums on seats and make sure the event is what it's supposed to be, which is celebrating our game on the international scene. Sorry.
Yeah, cheers for answering that. You had 3 players in the Academy International this week. How did they do?
Yeah, good. Unfortunate not to have more. I've watched our Academy quite a bit in reserves, and probably, I think, maybe one or two were unfortunate not to be involved anyway. But obviously you can't pick too many from one club, but getting off the point. Bizarre scoreline. 37-36, obviously Franny and the guys, I was double booked, I was with my son watching him play on Tuesday evening, but all the academy lads, all the staff, they went over to support our lads, which I thought was a really nice touch. And yeah, the sound of the game, 37-36 with 3 minutes to go or something like that, and then they scored what sounds like a pretty decent and ballsy try at the end of it there, France, and good. I bet it was good to watch, a bit of a score fest end to end, but from what I can gather, chatting to a couple of those lads there, it's not. It weren't the game they'd hoped to play. There was a lot of loose ball, and often like that, especially with kids. They're learning. They all probably want to impress a bit as well, and they probably didn't play to how they planned or expected to play. But all part of the learning curve. But also really positive to see France really competing at that age level. It's really good for French Rugby League and everyone as a whole, really.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of bringing it forward again, then you give all the players some time off during this break. Why was that important to do? Well,
that was the decision from, I'm going back a while now, probably really at the start of the season. The obvious reason, middle of the season, a week, freshen up, get away from each other, sort of recharge. And then I suppose it just helps around them injuries and such as well. But with the lads with families and all those little bits, giving the opportunity to plan something. You don't get that many weekends off over this 9-month period. So the opportunity to let them know that's you can book something and not let your family down last minute if we changed our mind and said, "Oh, you're training now." We have to stick to it and do the right thing, I suppose. Plenty of them come back, suntans and all, but they've been all right this week. They've jumped straight back into it.
I was going to ask about the response. I know the ultimate response is when it comes to the game, but what response have you seen in training?
I think they've been good. We've tried a couple of different stuff this week. Salford are a very good team. They're quite aggressive in how they defend and are very expansive in how they play with the ball, so we can expect to be challenged quite a lot this week, and we've made sure that's very clear what to expect, and obviously come up with a bit of a plan of how we think we can counter that. They've been good. They're looking forward to it, and for us it's a challenge now. I think it was 3 games where we showed that improvement, a little bit of consistency. Dropped off at London, then I think we've had 3, maybe is it 4, I'm not sure. 3 games where we've gone all right again, managed to pick up some points in that period, and now it's, can we go more than 3? I'm sure we can, but obviously we're going to have to be really good this week to take anything away from Salford. They're a good side.
Yeah, when you look at that kind of run going into the international break, including an impressive win against St Helens, what does that tell you about them?
Well, they're a form team, aren't they? There's a lot of chat around Salford and obviously the coaching situation and stuff there, but I think they play a nice brand. The transition's really good, and if you're not on it, they can catch you. And obviously it's not by accident. They practice this, and obviously they're well drilled on it. So again, they don't change too much game to game. They have their way of playing and they back themselves, which is obviously admirable and great in terms of consistency and discipline from them. Some leaves we can take out of their book, I think.
Not just one player, but how do you keep Mark Sneed quiet?
Sneed, tough one. He's the standout kicker of the competition. He's got the ball on a string between himself and Jordan Abdul on his day. They can both put the ball where they want it and make it really awkward for you. Not only with his long kicking game and territorially, knocking you back, but he's done a couple of really good ones lately anyway. He's feigning short and chipping it with a deft touch to the corner. It's almost football chattery, really. It's not rugby league, not really the same sort of chat in rugby league. But yeah, he's got that quality by him. I think for us, it's just can't make the game about Mark Sneed anyway. We've just got to defend the play first, and if he does put them quality kicks in, we just have to scrap for everything and try and cover what's behind us. But yeah, there will be occasions he puts us under pump. But if we've got bodies moving and more people in the picture, if we're in black and white, I'm not sure what kit we're in, but if we're in black and white, if there's more black and white in the picture, we've got more chance of coming up with the goods, haven't we? So for us, it's just concentration with him, I think.
For all, you've had some of those frustrating and disappointing losses this season. As you said, things have picked up a little bit, even if you haven't always got the result. Particularly Warrington, how much of a positive do you take from a defeat in that game?
Tough one. Warrington weren't good.
Yeah.
We were marginally better. I mean, yes, the scoreline was close, so we all felt good about that.
Yeah.
The adversity within the game probably made us feel a bit better about the outcome than it actually was. I think if we'd have been on that game with the way Warrington were poor with the ball, I think we could have got 2 points missed for us, unfortunately, and we're not in that position where we can afford to do that. I was so disappointing, but there were positives in amongst, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think Warrington weren't great. We were just a little bit better. Had we played at the level we played the week before, I think we'd have gone back to back. It's obviously been a while since we did that.
Just a final one away from sort of general rugby stuff. The club this week have launched the special edition Alzheimer's jersey. We spoke to a couple of the players who've got personal links to that illness as well. For you, just your thoughts on the club getting behind something like that?
Well, it's good to shine a light on it, obviously. It's one of them horrible diseases. And obviously, as you said, some of the lads know past players that have passed on recently from disease related to Alzheimer's and whatnot. And obviously some are still living with it, so it's nice to shine a light on it, and we're not celebrating it by any means, are we? But we're putting the light on it to make sure that awareness is out there, and obviously clubs getting on board with it, they're using their position in the community and an area to really sort of to give it a boost. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. And throughout the year, I'd imagine us as a club and all clubs really use that platform that you do have in a positive way to influence or again highlight causes such as that. So it's a good thing to be part of.
Good stuff. Thanks for your time.
No worries.
Grixie, dipping back into the reserves, one player that's been a standout in recent weeks is Will Kirby. Has he got any shot of first team this week, obviously with the injuries that you've picked up?
Yeah, Will's probably one of them who I mentioned previously where possibly unfortunate not to have represented England the other night. He's been really consistent and good, played really well. He's definitely in contention again, not just by default because of the losses in terms of injury, but at some point you've got to reward these kids, and he's been doing really well. He's trained us a couple of times this week, and as I said before, because of all these injuries and the bits and bobs of changes and a couple of carrying niggles, he's certainly in the thoughts and will come to a decision on our last run, which will be Saturday morning for sure. But yeah, it's definitely a shout, and it'll be another good tale, I think. Another young local lad who's I think lads were on about taking mick out of him earlier. His screensaver on his phone is a picture of him when he's 4 with the early bird. He's Hull through and through, like Moy, Charles, and all the lads that have played so far. So I think it could be a good story. He's one for the future though. Yes, he could come in and do a job for us at the moment, and we'll see how it looks like. But he's certainly one to keep an eye on.
For those who don't know, what would you say he can bring to the table at this point? Obviously, he's only 18, he's a teenager, but what would you say?
He's got a heap of development in him in terms of the skills and understanding of the game and the role that he plays in the second row or middle, whichever one you use him at. But he's just tough, competes hard, which are 2 qualities that if you're going to get anywhere and maybe have a longevity of your career, they're 2 sort of really important parts of it. You can add skill to people. I think you can improve people physically as well. That obviously both take time, but I just think having that bit of grit and competitive nature about it, it's not something that, I could be wrong on it, but I just think it's not something that you've either got it or you want. You said it's a fight to get that out of some people, where some people, they come training, they just look a bit different. Not saying he doesn't look like a weirdo, but he looks a bit like, when he's training he's on high, he's intense with what he's doing, and you can see that in his games when you've seen him play. As soon as he crosses whitewash, he's ready to go.
Zach Jepson, is he into your thoughts as well?
Jebo's in consideration again. He's another playing a similar position in reserves and going really well. But yeah, they're part of the mix this week, and we'll see what our last session looks like.
It's a big week for some of the senior players as well, like Jake Truman, so his 7th game back now since his return from injury. How have you assessed him so far? Because obviously you were very cautious about not expecting too much, but obviously he's got a run of games under his belt now.
I like to think he's getting into a bit of the rhythm, and I think Benny's helped him a lot. Benny Reynolds has come in and done a good job for us there. I think when he first come back, it was probably one good involvement, one he'd like to take back, and he went like that for a couple of weeks, I suppose. But I think he's been progressing nicely, getting better, and he looks more confident. He looks more like the Truey that we saw last year when he got into the rhythm of it again. And I suppose his class and qualities, they still remain despite the length of time off feet. Just hopefully it lasts. He's doing well, and there's no signs of anything. Touch wood. And if we can get him on the field for the rest of the season, that'd be great for us, and obviously great for him to get them games. It's a very frustrating time when you're missing it. Obviously, once the injury happens, you're not in control. All you can do is work on getting back, and he's done a lot of work to get himself back on field, and he should be proud of getting himself back into that rhythm. And I think for now, it's just keeping to build and add layers to it, where we've kept it very basic, little steps of progression for the group. Obviously, with the multiple changes, and like Chewy coming in after a long time off. And obviously we're going to change a little bit more this week, hopefully. So we'll see how he goes again. But yeah, he's been good and obviously continually getting better.
How important has it been for Chewy to have Ben in then for the last 3-4 games? To have that bit of seniority, but also...
Yeah, I think it's that experience next to him. Charles, who was doing an okay job in a team that we weren't playing very well, let's be right, for a long period of time. We're playing poor at times. So coming in a team that wasn't ultra confident can be difficult. But I thought Chewy showed a few signs there. Then we've got Benny in, gives the opportunity to put an experience, another voice in there, which is something Jack needs to develop, his communication. Not that he's bad at it, but sometimes young lads come in and they struggle directing those older boys around. They're a little bit timid about it. It just gets easier the more they're around the place. But Benny's still certainly got a bit of a mouth on him. He doesn't mind telling people where they need to be, which obviously lightens the load for Chewy and opens him up a little bit. So yeah, they've worked quite well together, I think.
At the back, you mentioned Jack Walker could come back into contention, maybe even play in the coming weeks. Is that still the case? We've seen him play for reserves last weekend.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Moy, Litton and Wacker there. Moy's playing really well. Dave's going well at reserves. Wacker's played well at reserves. It's all down to performance, essentially. And I did mention it to you, and I'll say it again. The longer we leave Jack out of the picture, the kind of harder it is for him to come in and do his, play at a level that you'd want to play at. But at the same time, when Moy's not doing anything wrong, with the break we've had as well, it's an hard decision around what we do. We don't want to wait for Moy to have a bad game before we go, right, you're out. But he's doing such a great job at the minute. It'll be hard for us to change it this week in particular. But yeah, Jack's still got plenty of opportunities, a long time left in this year. As has David, he went really well for reserves of day. The opposition were great, but he had a really good game, and he's putting his hand up now saying he wants to be full-back, which I admire him for the challenges he's giving himself there. Obviously, a couple of blokes in front of him are playing more consistently there than him, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, nice to have choices in some positions. We don't have them in all, but yeah, there's certainly a nice little battle going on there.
Obviously, going to Salford, arguably one of the form teams in Super League at the minute, aren't they, with the results sort of like they're right up there. So is it perhaps in this little mini resurgence, is it the biggest challenge we'll have had, in the last several weeks? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, listen, they're a good team, aren't they? They're going well, as I said before. They play a nice brand, discipline with it, kicking games, arguably best in league. With Sneed there directing that. So it's just another big challenge for us. I think, yeah, it'd be nice to go beyond the 3 of going well and not fall off. And that can be determined somewhat by result outwardly. And we're still looking at performance and the little details of trying to get people better. That's our remit as coaches at the moment. The results would be absolutely awesome to get the 2 points every week, but we just need to make sure we're trying to get better, and if we do that, we're getting closer each time. But we've got some challenges this week. Obviously, we've mentioned before the number of people carrying bits and bobs and unavailable to us, so it's also always a challenge, and exciting, and an opportunity. We're going to get maybe a couple of young kids get a game this week, and we can see their energy and enthusiasm out there.